The sign outside says this here school is for instructions in the martial arts. So we thought we might get some lessons.
It's time for some Sho'nuff. So, this last week, we ended up getting one of our big parts in. We got our Browell bell housing. Well, I tried to stuff it in there and I ran into a couple clearance issues. So, on these, there's this tab here and over here, and this is the top center. Well, literally just the edge of those Mickey Mouse ear tabs. Both are in my way, and the very tip top edge of this is hitting just a little bit. So on here, you pretty much cannot touch this. This goes through crazy SFI rating stuff, and yes, it's got a crazy tag here that states all that. So I can't cut, grind, touch, heat, do anything to this thing pretty much, except bolt the tranny to it. What we gotta do is clearance where it sits in the engine plate. So in there, those round bars at the top of the tunnel right there, I just gotta put a couple little notches in it. So I made a cardboard template. We're gonna put that up there, trace it on, and we're gonna go ahead and see how much we gotta remove, and then we'll plate it back in with a little bit of flat plate hammered in to the shape. Yeah. In order to do so, I gotta pull the engine real quick because I gotta get that plate out as well to do the notching. So we're gonna pull this stuff out, which isn't too hard. I only have 2 bolts on the intake manifold, 2 bolts on the exhaust manifold, you know, front engine plate, and then pull the motor. So it's not too much. Should be out in the next half hour, 45 minutes. And from there, we'll start clearancing that so we can get it all bolted together with the bell housing, and we'll do the patch in later. The main goal is get the tranny in there so we can measure the input shaft and measure for a drive shaft. So that's where we're going with this. Alrighty, now that I got the engine plate back out and I lined it back up with all of its alignment dowel holes, we can see where the center line of the bar rested, and you know, it's not incredibly it's not a lot, you know, I mean, it's just barely. So it's 1 inch tube, so I grabbed a piece of 1 inch. So where center lines up, you can see it definitely overhangs it. And then the nose as well. So we have, like, at the outside edge, a 3-inch wide opening, but it's only gonna need to go in about 3/8 of an inch. All right, so my solution to perfect notching here is pretty simple. It's actually a 2x6. So what I need to do is I need to notch this tab, this amount of clearance here, and this tab. This top one I'm not worried about quite right away. I'm really more worried about these ones. These are my really big notches. So I went ahead and traced out on my cardboard stencil here of the bell housing, and then mark center of those Mickey Mouse ear tabs. So, and that was 5/8, which is an 1.25" diameter inside. So I'm gonna use a piece of 1 5/8 tube to weld back in here. So I'm just gonna take a 1 5/8 hole saw and run it through my tube off of this center point. So to do this, we're simply just going to slide the 2x6 down, and then we're gonna run several wood screws through the anchor locations. The reason I'm gonna do that is because then I have those points marked, and I can take this piece of wood back over to the chassis and run it actually through the wood. And the wood's gonna have our center points on it for the hole saw already in it, and that's gonna be our guide to keep us straight as we just cut out that one little outer edge. So we're gonna go ahead and screw this down and show you exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. No, it'll work like a stud. Alright, so I went ahead and I got those ears transferred onto the wood here, and now I just got to drill those out to my pilot hole size. That'll be my pilot holes for the hole saw after we mount this piece of board back in the chassis. But I know to fit it in there, I'm gonna have to trim these ears off a little bit too. So go ahead and line these holes, the mounting holes back up. Trace the plate on. I'll just run over the bandsaw, cut this off, and then we'll mount it to the chassis, and then I can use the hole saw to notch out those 2 ear tabs. Alright, so now that one that broke off, I'll just line up with the hole. But now I have my center pilot hole. I put my hole saw on and it'll only cut that edge and not walk off. Alright, so now I got my hole saw bit, and I took my arbor and extended it way out because I need it to go into the pilot hole but stick out farther than the bar. So I extended it out quite a bit, and we're gonna go ahead and make our first clearance. Alright. Well, now I got a couple little notches. So I'll go ahead and put the engine plate back up and see if that bell housing clears. I think I'm gonna have to probably hand grind a little bit more out, but at least the majority of the notch is there. Alright. So I took some chromoly and I cut it like down lengthwise just a few inches, and then I put it in my bandsaw and cut the width what I wanted, and then I ended up making little pieces that have some slightly rounded edges, and then I cleaned them up and I used my magnet to hold them, and they actually fit right up in there. It's gonna give us the concave that we need. So, and I'm fitting it inside the pipe, so I'm not losing any of the room I just created. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my ground on and tack these in on both sides and then weld them in. And then I just have one slightly long big one to do up in the top. Alrighty. Well, I got that magnet all holding it up there. I got the welder all brought over here set up. And we're gonna go ahead and tack this thing in. And voila. And there's the very first one. I'll weld it up. Sorry, looking at the light back there. That should definitely clear what we need it to. Repeat on the other side, and then I'll show you guys the top. Gonna do a little bit different for that one. So, because that one has to be wide, so we're gonna put a slice in the middle, and then kind of make it a little bit eye-shaped, just barely, and then push it up and then run a seam down it. And that should pull some material out of it. So there's that one welded in. Now we just have the top one. I've actually decided, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put a small relief cut on this side underneath the bolt hole and a small one on this side. Just straight cut. And then what I'll do is I'll be able to hammer that up a little bit and then seam it. Because I don't need a whole lot. I only need like 1/8 of an inch for the top edge to clear. Like literally nothing. So we're gonna do minimal to that and get it knocked up. Then that should be all the modifications we need to fit the bell housing. It's not a lot, but that was enough to definitely create a headache for Sho'nuff.
Yeah.
Well, I just got done grinding on these welds. I don't usually grind on welds. I'm not a big advocate of that, but in this case, it's for clearancing the bellow housing, so I didn't want any of my welds sticking out in my clearance zone. So I went ahead and massaged them back into bar shape, and they look pretty nice once I put a coat of paint on them. It's just gonna look like I heated them up. All right, guys, it's Monday morning. I got in. I was super anxious. I just had to see if the work I did Friday night, clearancing the chassis for the bell housing, worked. So it kind of ate at me and nipped at me, and I just was curious. I was pretty sure of myself, but this morning, you know, test fit is the only way to truly know if it fits or not. So it's real hard to get in there and hold that thing for you to see me. So I went ahead and guess what? Cha-ching! We got fitment. So next step, we're gonna slide the transmission on here so we can start getting some measurements. So we're gonna measure for our input shaft, our clutch, and our drive shaft. So yeah, those are some big key components to get finished up on this car. And everything else is just time and getting stuff done. So super exciting, super way cool. So let's go ahead and get this transmission bolted up so we can start measuring stuff. Sho'nuff! Yeah! Alright, let's stab this tranny to this case and get it mated up. Okay. It'll be so much easier with a input shaft on there with the pilots to guide it in. Thank you. Oh, that is so cool. Well, that's what the transmission and Sho'nuff's gonna look like in here. That looks pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Man, that looks cool. Oh yeah. That is awesome. Sho'nuff. Starting to feel like a race car now. Now that the tranny's here, we're gonna measure for the drive shaft, then finish the drive shaft hoop system, and get those other measurements to the parts people, and really start buttoning stuff up.
We appreciate you guys watching, so subscribe, give us a comment, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.